A werewolf towers over the Dogman, muscles rippling under blood-matted fur, his claws pressed deep into the bark of a pine tree, pinning the other beast against it like a crucifixion. Their snarls echo through the fog like ancient hymns, not of hate, but of history. "You broke it," the werewolf hisses low and guttural. "You liar." The Dogman's yellow eyes burn with something older than rage. "No, you did. When you protected them." Then it happens. 2 arrows cut through the trees like judgment. One buries itself deep in the werewolf's shoulder, the other in his spine. He staggers and something whispers through the woods. They were never meant to fight each other. The Dogman falls limp. The werewolf turns, eyes scanning the shadowed woods. But there's nothing. No archer, no voice, only wind. A tree beside them pulses. On its trunk, etched deep into the bark, a rune glows red. A circle bisected by a fang. It blinks, once, like an eye, and then we fall to black. They call it silver pines, not because the trees shine, but because of what was buried beneath them. Bones, curses, promises made in blood. And now, someone's come back. Her name is Mara. She's a cryptid hunter, not the TV kind, the real kind. The kind who digs into 200-year-old folklore and finds teeth still buried in the dirt. She kneels beside a broken trail camera. Claw marks deeper than any bear's shred, the casing open like tissue paper. Her fingers trace the edges with practiced calm. "This wasn't a bear," she mutters. "And it wasn't random." Behind her, Cal fumbles with a DSLR camera, breathing. Too loud for someone who supposedly believes in science. He's already asking too many questions. "Why'd you say back?" he says. "Like, again?" Mara doesn't answer. Instead, she turns toward the woods and whispers mostly to herself. "This is where it started. Where the pact was made." Cal stammers, half laughing. "Pact? Like a truce?" But Mara's already walking deeper in. The forest thickens. Time unravels here. Sunlight dies before it hits the ground. Everything smells like rot and pine and something hiding beneath both. They find claw marks, deep, measured, intentional. They find a ring of stones, older than the logging records. Each one marked with crude glyphs, now faded but not forgotten. And then they find the claw, half buried in the soil, still warm to the touch. The earth hums around it, like a tuning fork struck by something ancient. Cal wants to joke, but the air won't let him because something's watching. Further in, past the point where normal animals dare, something stirs. It doesn't walk like a man, doesn't breathe like a wolf. It watches with eyes that remember every betrayal, and it waits. One eye, red as an eclipse, blinks open. The hybrid is awake. Night falls like a curse. At camp, Mara pores over her grandfather's journal. Pages smudged by decades of fear and belief. Sketches of wolves and dogmen standing together, not tearing each other apart. A blood pit between them. A promise carved into both species' skin. A pact. Al asks the obvious question. What broke it? Mara hesitates, because she doesn't know. All she knows is what comes next. The forest is breathing now. Wind stirs dead leaves in patterns that look almost intentional. The fire crackles against the cold like it's afraid of going out. Then, a sound, a howl, but it shifts halfway through. It starts as a dog's, ends as something else, something split. Mara freezes. That wasn't a wolf, Cal says. No, she whispers. It was both. They stand. Flashlights scan the dark. Branches creak. Something darts between trees. A blur of fur, a glint of red, eyes in the mist. Something massive is circling them. And then nothing. Just breathing. Not theirs. Before the forest bled, before the war, there was one night when the howls ceased. When claw and fang bowed, not in fear but in ritual. Moonlight filters through the towering trees, casting silver blades across a circular clearing. Its center, a pit freshly dug. Its walls are lined with runes etched into stone, filled with some dark resin that glistens like oil. Two armies stand on opposite ends of the circle, one of werewolves, upright, hulking, their breath steaming in the cold air. The other dogmen, lower to the ground, sinewy, eyes flicking side to side with suspicion. Not a word is spoken. The air is so heavy it could snap. Then a single figure steps forward from each side. The wolf alpha, draped in bones and fur. His left eye is gone, replaced by a jagged scar that never quite healed. The dogman shaman, skeletal and hunched, his robe stitched with feathers, teeth and symbols from a language long extinct. They don't speak. They simply kneel. At the edge of the pit rests a stone basin. Into it the alpha slices his own palm, allowing thick crimson blood to fall like molasses. The shaman follows, grimacing as his blood runs thinner, blacker. The two bloods swirl together in the basin, and then the pit begins to glow. Ritual runes ignite across the forest floor. The pact is forming. It was never trust that united them. It was extinction. The humans had grown bold. Their traps had grown smarter. Their bullets, silver, and their hunters, relentless. So the beasts did what desperate things do. They made a promise neither side could afford to keep. The werewolves howl, a low, unifying sound, harmonized like a choir. The dogmen echo, but theirs is a throaty chant, more guttural than melodic. The energy builds, trees bend, the moon dims, and just as the basin overflows with blood, something changes. The alpha winces, his blood thickens, turns darker. The shaman's eyes go wide, not in reverence but in fear. He mutters something under his breath in a forgotten tongue. He smells silver in the alpha's blood. The alpha's blood burns the stone edge of the basin, smoking faintly. One of them had hidden a weapon in the wound. The dogmen took it as treason. The wolves swore it was survival, but the forest does not care for motive. It only remembers the stain. The basin suddenly cracks, sending blood spilling into the ritual pit. The runes flash from red to violet to black. The trees scream and the creatures lose control. How did we get to this well in the past? One of the dogmen lunges across the circle, ripping into a wolf's throat. The alpha roars, not in rage, but confusion. Fire explodes from the edges of the circle, consuming the sacrificial symbols. Chaos erupts, claws, fangs, screams. What was meant to unite becomes the first war cry, and yet in the middle of the carnage, a moment. A young werewolf, barely past shifting age, shields. A dogman pup from the flames. The adults kill each other, but the children watch and survive. One day, they'll remember, and that memory will burn brighter than the fire. Mara jolts awake, breath shallow. The fire's gone out. Cal is missing. The woods are silent again. She grabs her flashlight, scans the trees. There, a fresh claw mark on the tent pole. Not there before. She follows the mark down the tree, and beneath it, scrawled in fresh mud, the pact is open again. Cal's breath clouds the air. He's walking in a daze, barefoot, shirt torn, eyes glassy, movements stiff. Something is controlling him, or calling him. A voice echoes in his head, but it isn't his. Blood remembers, even if flesh forgets. Not a roar, not a scream, just a whisper. It's time. 200 years ago, the pact was born in betrayal. Tonight, it awakens in something far worse. The pact may have died in flame, but its ghost walks in silence. And tonight, that silence follows Cal into the trees. Cal stumbles forward through the underbrush like a man asleep. His eyes are wide, unfocused. His feet bleed from bramble and thorns, but he doesn't feel it. Something has him, not possessed, not quite, more like claimed. The air around him is heavy. Each breath feels filtered through ancient memory. And ahead, something moves, not fast, not loud, but always just far enough that he can't quite see it, only feel it watching. A flicker of shape between trees, fur, smoke. Its outline doesn't follow the rules of shadow. Cal finally stops and just says, "What are you?" Silence. Then the sound of branches snapping, deliberately, loudly, behind him. He turns, and there it is, the hybrid, a hulking figure, twice the size of a man, with fur that shifts in color like moonlight through fog. Its limbs move like a wolf's, but its face holds sadness and something else. Recognition. Cal can't breathe, but the hybrid doesn't move. It doesn't attack. It doesn't snarl. It simply raises one clawed finger and places it to its own chest. Then it speaks, not with a voice, with a memory. Through Cal's eyes, not his own, a child running through firelight blood, screaming, the wolf alpha dragging a Dogman child away from slaughter, a burned rune still glowing in the dirt. The hybrid as a boy watching both sides destroy each other. He was born of both clans and belonged to neither, raised in secret by silence and the wild. Not beast, not man. A bridge burned at both ends. Cal gasps, the vision breaking. He looks up. Why show me that? But the hybrid is already walking away. It turns, just before disappearing into the trees, and leaves 3 words burned into Cal's mind. You're part of it. Back at camp, Mara's torchlight dances through trees like fleeing spirits. She's following Cal's tracks, bare feet, scattered direction. She passes something half buried in the soil, a journal page. She picks it up. A sketch, crude but clear. The hybrid, standing between 2 burning camps, holding both sigils, one in each hand, crying. He was the last truth both sides wanted buried, the only one who saw what really happened. And now the war needs him again. He steps out of the trees, quiet, calm. Mara levels a flare gun at him instantly. You disappear, drag me through hell and come back looking like you saw a ghost? He doesn't answer. He just says, we were wrong, about everything, and then collapses. Mara sits at the fire, reading the recovered journal pages, sketches of ancient ruins, hybrid anatomy, ritual circles crossed out with warnings like unstable and not for blood bearers. Her eyes catch a symbol, the same rune from the glowing tree. She flips the page. The forest doesn't forgive, but it remembers. Suddenly, a sound behind her. Not Cal, not beast, footsteps, human. A man steps into the firelight, military boots, scratched rifle, pale coat stitched with silver thread. His eyes not surprised to see her. He raises a badge. Silver Division. Monster affairs. You're trespassing in an active cryptid zone, ma'am. Mara's blood goes cold. He sees her reaction, smirks, then says, You've seen it, haven't you? The half-breed. New players enter the forest, but not all of them came to end the war. Some came to finish what the pact started, and with fire. Its chest rises slow, deliberate. It watches. It waits, because something else is coming. Something worse than betrayal, and it's already here. The beasts once ruled these woods until man brought fire. Guns, steel, silver. And when the monsters vanished, men stayed behind to hunt the shadows and label themselves saviors. The air is thick with ash. Smoke drifts like fog, curling around the low branches. Mara watches from the tree line as 6 men in matching pale grey gear spread out through the clearing. Their uniforms are scarred from years of burns and claws. Their rifles hum faintly, some tech built to humiliate nature. The one who spoke before, the man with the silver-threaded coat, kneels beside her dead campfire and picks up Cal's broken flashlight. He studies it like a puzzle, then turns toward the woods. You're hiding something, sweetheart, he says, and we don't like secrets in a cryptid zone. The Silver Division wasn't created to study monsters. It was built to erase them. He's still pale, sweating. The vision from the hybrid hasn't left him. It plays behind his eyes like a projector stuck on loop. He mutters to himself, they'll kill him if they see him. He sees something move above, a lens flare. A drone, barely audible, scanning the trees. They're not just here for the hybrid. They know it's real and they're hunting it. Fast, silent, it crosses through fog like it was born of it, every step taken with purpose, with memory. Its fur glistens from the morning dew, already stained at the claws with dried blood from something unseen. It stops, breathes, sniffs the air, smells gunpowder, smoke, and silver. Its eyes narrow. It turns toward the direction of the camp. He never wanted to fight, but this forest has rules, and one of them is simple. If you are seen, you are not allowed to live. Mara steps forward, hands raised. Whatever you think you're doing, she says, you need to stop. That thing out there, he's not the threat. The leader, Agent Sykes, grins without humor. Everything's a threat, he replies. That's the rule. If it bleeds, it gets tagged or it gets burned. She tries again. It protected us. He laughs this time. You think it protected you? Sweetheart, I've seen these things wear your skin while your blood's still warm. You're just lucky this one's playing docile. He turns to his team. Burn the perimeter. Force it in. Silver Division ignites the woods. Canisters are launched. Small, quiet. But when they land, they explode with blue fire that eats the underbrush. Trees light up. Smoke blinds everything beneath waist level. Ultrasonic emitters are placed around the circle. A frequency begins humming. Something only the beasts can hear. Far off in the woods, the hybrid drops to one knee, claws to its ears. It snarls. Not in rage, in pain. He bursts from the trees, yelling, "Stop it! You don't know what you're doing!" Guns turn on him instantly. Agent Sykes narrows his eyes. Well, the boyfriend speaks, Mara shouts, rushing forward. He's not infected, yet, Sykes replies, motioning his team. One steps forward with a scanner. He jabs it at Cal's neck. The screen blips once, then again, then turns red. Sykes stares at it. So, you've been touched. He turns back to his men. Change of plan. Kill the hybrid. Bag this one for testing. The forest watches. It listens. It judges. But even it cannot stop what comes next. Without warning, it erupts from the smoke, a blur of fur and fury. One soldier is torn into the tree line before he can scream. Another has his weapon crushed in half mid-aim. The third dropped with a claw to the gut, but not killed. Not yet. The hybrid is moving with control, precision. It doesn't want death, but it will not allow slaughter. Bullets fly. The forest turns to chaos. Fire licks higher, and through it all, Mara watches the hybrid tear through trained killers with mercy. It could end them all, but it doesn't. It only does enough. Sykes aims a silver-coated harpoon. Fires. The harpoon pierces. Its shoulder. It howls, raw and wounded, and crashes into the trees beyond. Smoke swallows it. It could have fled, but it came back. Because something in it still believes peace is possible, even as the world bleeds fire. Well, now it's hurt. Now we can follow it. He reloads. This time we bring back proof, or bones. Blood leaks from its wound. It breathes heavy. It stares down at the rune burned into its chest, the one it carved there itself. A symbol of the pact, still glowing faintly, still holding on. The forest remembers, even when everyone else wants to forget. The Silver Division left the trees scorched. Their boots didn't chase the hybrid, but their fire did. And now the forest is quieter. Not safer, just quieter, like a scream swallowed too late. Ash hangs in the air like fog that forgot how to leave. Trees lie in splinters. Smoke curls from the soil. And near the edge of the blackened grove, a trail of blood leads into a narrow cavern mouth, barely visible beneath a curtain of moss. They'll never find him here, for now inside the cave, lit only by the dying shimmer of runes etched into the walls, the hybrid tends to his wound. He winces as his claw tips dig out shards of the silver harpoon. Each flick sends a spark of pain flashing through his body, but he doesn't scream. He hasn't in years. Instead, he hums, low and broken, a song passed down by neither parent. A song that doesn't belong to either species, a song that might be his alone. He remembers the child, the flame, the blood that came too soon. He remembers hands that didn't match, voices that lied, and eyes that pitied. And still he came back to help them. He places a palm against the rune in the stone. It glows, faint, dim, dying, just like the pact. Mara and Cal in a forgotten cabin, hidden deep in the woods, tucked behind collapsed logs and overgrown vines. Mara finds an old hunter's cabin. She hauls Cal inside. He's still dazed, but alive. His veins are different, slightly pulsing with a faint silver hue beneath the skin. Side effect of exposure, or something else? She doesn't tell him. Not yet. Mara and Cal in a forgotten cabin, hidden deep in the woods, tucked behind collapsed logs and overgrown vines. Mara finds an old hunter's cabin. She hauls Cal inside. He's still dazed, but alive. His veins are different, slightly pulsing with a faint silver hue beneath the skin. Side effect of exposure, or something else? She doesn't tell him, not yet. She's seen the way he looks now. And it's not just fear in her eyes anymore. It's the question, the one nobody asks out loud. What if the hybrid didn't infect him? What if he awakened something already there? On the table lies her grandfather's old map of the forest. She scans it, circles ancient sites, stone pits, blood wells, places where trees still whisper names no tongue should say. One is marked the spine. She's never been there. Her grandfather called it the birthplace of the curse, and someone circled it again in recent ink, not hers. His voice is rasped, like he hasn't used it in hours. He wasn't evil, Cal says. He didn't try to kill them. Mara nods. I know, but he's not done, and neither are they. Images in Cal's mind, residual from the hybrid's memory, echo. A young werewolf elder kneeling in firelight, a Dogman alpha whispering into a human's ear, a knife being passed, not beast-forged, but forged by man and silver. Always silver. Cal gasps. It wasn't them, he says. The wolves didn't poison the pact. Mara freezes. What? It was the humans. Someone gave the Dogman silver. He grabs the journal, flipping pages. She blamed the wolves. They all did. But it was planted. He holds up a sketch. The symbol burned into the tree at the first crime scene. I saw this in the division officer's coat. The truth cracks open, not with thunder, but a whisper. The war never began from within. It was guided, pushed by something outside the forest. He kneels in the center of the glowing rune. Blood from his wound pools into the cracks. The runes begin to shift color, red to gold, the sign of an old memory surfacing. And then a voice, deep, female, cold. You weren't supposed to survive. The hybrid's eyes snap open. She stands at the cave mouth. Tall, cloaked in black stitched with moonstone, her face is pale, her eyes all pupil, like a predator that sees in every shade of dark. She steps forward without fear. I was there, you know, she says. The night your mother begged me not to take you. The hybrid growls, low and slow. She doesn't flinch. She thought you'd bring peace, she says, circling him. But I knew you'd bring hesitation. She leans close, whispers like acid, and hesitation is death. She is called the widow. She is not beast, not quite human. She is the one who gave the Dogmen silver, the one who watched the pact burn and smiled. The hybrid lunges, but she's already gone, smoke in her place. Only her voice remains. They'll all be there, child, at the spine. I suggest you choose your side before it's chosen for you. A final choice, Cal at her side. Silver Division moving in, the widow manipulating everything, and the hybrid bleeding toward destiny. The forest remembers, and now, so do they all. Every forest has a heart, and the spine is this one's throat, carved deep into the earth where old things slumber. Tonight, it opens. A vast crevice cuts through the forest floor like a scar. Stone steps spiral downward. Torches line the descent, flickering with unnatural blue flames, already lit. Someone's expecting them. At the bottom lies a hollow carved in roots and ancient bone. The earth pulses faintly beneath it. Not metaphor, heartbeat. Mara and Cal stand at the rim. Both are armed, not with guns, but knowledge. Cal's veins now shimmer faintly. His eyes glint under the moon like glass. Not beast, but not quite human anymore. The hybrid touch has changed him. Mara's hands tremble as she unfolds the final page of her grandfather's journal. If the blood touches the altar again, the pact can be restored or destroyed. A choice must be made, but they're not the only ones here. From the west, the Dogman, grey fur, glowing eyes, bodies twitching with battle lust. From the east, the werewolves, towering, silent, regal in rage. Above, from helicopters and climbing ropes, Silver Division, armed to the teeth, led by Agent Sykes, now in full assault armor. And from the shadows behind them all, unseen by most, the Widow watches, smiling. 3 sides, 2 truths, 1 lie. And the hybrid, born of all, torn by each, steps forward. The hybrid enters the spine alone. His wound still bleeds, but his eyes burn steady. He steps into the center of the pit. No one moves, even the division hesitates. The beasts lower their claws, uncertain. Sykes raises his weapon and hybrid roars, but not in anger, in grief. It silences the clearing. Then he speaks, not with words, with memory. Everyone sees it. The ritual pit, the Widow handing a silver blade to the Dogman Shaman. The Dogmen crying betrayal. The Alpha trying to protect the child. The fire, the lie. The Widow watching, laughing, walking. Away untouched, gasps, growls, snarls. The Dogmen step back. The werewolves howl low in mourning, and the division, Sykes' scanner glitches. His comms buzz static. Who the hell is that woman? He turns, but she's already beside him. The Widow smiles. You were just a hammer, she says, and hammers don't ask who made the nails. She touches his chest. Sykes' eyes widen, and then he collapses, stone cold. The Widow wanted chaos, not victory, because war feeds the old ones beneath. And tonight, she wanted a feast. She turns to the crowd, raises a black stone dagger. Kill the hybrid, she says, voice echoing like thunder, or I release what sleeps below. The ground trembles. A crack splits the altar. A rumble rises, not from machines, but from something massive underneath. An ancient thing, bound to blood, bound to betrayal. Cal steps forward. I'll take his place. Silence. He walks to the altar, places his hand on the stone. The Blood Pact rune lights up, and the Widow screams, too late. It's already begun. To break a curse, one must replace it. And the pact was never meant for beasts alone. The hybrid steps forward, joins Cal, so does Mara, so do the wolves, and the Dogmen. Hands, paws, claws, all pressed to the stone. The light builds. The forest shakes. The Widow screams again. Now in fury, she tries to flee. But the earth opens beneath her, a blinding light, a sonic boom, a second heartbeat, and then silence. Smoke rises, ash settles. The altar glows steady now. Soft, gold, warm. The factions are gone. No beasts, no division. Only 3 figures remain. Mara, Cal, the hybrid. The forest breathes again. The pact is reborn. There was a war. There was a lie. But now there is memory. He looks too. The trees, the moon, and then walks into the fog. To be continued in our next episode, The Widow's Curse. And for those who hunger for more, step deeper into the shadows with our ultimate werewolf horror playlist, linked in the description below. In the world of horror, the scariest, Things happen when you least expect them, and trust me, you don't want to be left in the dark. Welcome to the darkness.